What if one missing document meant the difference between getting the benefits you earned and being told your claim doesn't exist? For thousands of veterans, that's not a hypothetical. It's their reality. The truth is, filing a VA disability claim is only part of the battle. What really protects your future is what you keep after the paperwork's filed. Because long after your claim is approved or denied, questions can resurface. When did your symptoms start? What exactly did you file? Who said what and when? And if you can't prove it, you might lose it. That's why today we're going over 9 documents you should never throw away if you've ever filed a VA disability claim. Not one. These papers might seem small, just another envelope, another PDF, but they hold the power to defend your benefits, correct VA mistakes, and even secure back pay you didn't know you were owed. And once they're gone, there's no guarantee you'll be able to get them back. So whether you're filing your first claim, waiting on an appeal, or already receiving benefits, this list could save you from a serious setback down the road. Stay with me until the end, because a lot of veterans overlook at least one of these, and that single oversight could cost them everything. Let's start with the foundation, your original VA claim application. It might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many veterans toss this aside once they get a decision. VA Form 21-526 Easy is what officially opens the door to your benefits. It details your conditions, the evidence you submitted, and the exact day you began the claims process. That last part matters more than most people realize, because the VA ties your effective date, which determines your back pay, to when this document was received. Now, imagine this. Years from now, you discover an error in your rating or a condition that should have been granted but wasn't. If you don't have a copy of your original application, it becomes much harder to prove what you claimed and when. The VA loses files. Systems get updated. And while you can request a copy through FOIA or your va.gov portal, that's assuming it's still on file and not lost in some digital black hole. Even if your claim is denied, this document becomes critical for appeals or supplemental claims. It's your timestamp, your receipt, your starting point. It's what tells your story in your words before the VA filtered it through their process. So whether you filed online through a VSO or mailed it in, keep a copy. Save the PDF. Print it out. Back it up. Because if anyone ever questions when or how your claim started, this is the one document that shuts that down instantly. And losing it? That's a mistake you don't get to make twice. The VA rating decision letter might look like just another piece of paperwork, but it's actually one of the most powerful documents in your entire disability file. This is a letter that tells you what the VA decided, how they justified it, and what percentage rating they gave you for each condition. It breaks down the approval or denial of every item you claimed, and often includes critical language that could help or hurt you in future appeals or increases. Let's say you were granted 30% for PTSD, but the decision letter mentions symptoms that could actually justify a 50% or even 70% rating. Without that letter, you might never catch that. Or maybe you were denied for a back injury because no chronic condition was found in service. That exact phrasing could be used later to challenge the decision, especially if new medical records prove otherwise. And here's something most people miss. The letter often includes your effective date, the date your benefits officially start. That single line determines thousands of dollars in back pay. If the VA ever tries to adjust your benefits, dispute your timeline, or lower your rating later on, this letter is your first line of defense. You should also know that this isn't a one-and-done situation. Every time you file a new claim or appeal and get a new decision, you'll get another rating letter. Keep them all. Each one builds a paper trail that shows the full evolution of your benefit history. Bottom line, this letter is proof of what the VA thinks your conditions are worth. It's how you hold them accountable. Lose it, and you lose your leverage. Keep it, and you stay in control of your own case. Service treatment records are the heartbeat of your VA disability claim. These are the official medical records created while you were in active duty. Every visit to sick call, every diagnosis, every injury, every prescription. They're the paper trail that links your current condition back to your time in uniform. And without them, proving service connection becomes a lot harder. Here's the truth most people don't realize. The VA isn't just going to take your word for it. If you say your back pain started after that training accident in 2004, but there's nothing in your STRs about it, your claim is already on shaky ground. The VA looks for documentation, not just memories. That's why holding on to your STRs is so critical. Sometimes the VA doesn't receive the full file or parts of it get lost. We've heard from veterans who were denied benefits simply because their in-service records couldn't be found, even though they clearly remember being treated. When you have a personal copy, you're not at the mercy of a system that loses paperwork more often than you'd think, even for conditions that develop later, like mental health struggles that surfaced after combat or exposure-related illnesses. Your STRs can include early warning signs that help you build your case. Maybe you didn't get a formal PTSD diagnosis in service, but your records show you were seen for sleep issues, anxiety, or behavioral changes. That can be the foundation for a successful claim, if you still have the records to prove it. Think of your STRs as your original evidence. Without them, everything else becomes harder to validate. Keep them safe, make digital backups, and never assume the VA has every page they're supposed to, because if they don't, it's you who pays the price. VA rating decision letters might seem like routine paperwork, but they're actually one of the most important documents you'll ever receive as a veteran filing for disability. These letters don't just tell you whether your claim was approved or denied. They break down exactly how the VA evaluated your condition, what evidence they considered, and why they came to their decision. That's why you should never throw them away. Ever. Here's what most veterans don't realize. The reasoning inside that decision letter can affect every future claim you file. Whether you're trying to increase a rating, file for a new condition, or appeal a denial, everything goes back to what was written in that original decision. Let's say the VA denied your claim for migraines in 2017, saying there wasn't enough evidence. Years later, you get more medical documentation and want to try again. If you don't have that old decision letter, you might not know what the VA focused on or what was missing. But if you do have it, you can tailor your new submission to directly address their previous reasoning. Decision letters also contain something else critical: effective dates. These determine how far back your payments can go, if there's ever a mistake, or if you later prove the VA overlooked something. You'll need that letter to show what date they originally assigned. Without it, trying to recover lost back pay can become nearly impossible. Another overlooked point: some veterans are granted partial benefits for a condition, but the language in the decision letter hints that more evidence could lead to a higher rating. That subtle clue might be your opportunity to push for what you actually deserve, but only if you kept the letter and know exactly what they said. So don't treat VA decision letters like junk mail. Keep them organized. Make physical and digital copies. Because the moment you decide to revisit a claim or challenge something that was missed, that old letter becomes your map. And if it's lost, you're navigating blind. If you've ever filed a VA disability claim or plan to, your service treatment records are one of the most powerful pieces of evidence you can possibly have. These aren't just medical notes from your time in uniform. They're a detailed chronological history of what your body went through while serving, and they could be the deciding factor between approval and denial. Here's the problem. Most veterans assume the VA already has these records on file, and while they should, that's not always the case. Records can be incomplete, misfiled, or entirely missing, especially if you served decades ago or during a time when paper records were still standard. That's why keeping your own full copy is crucial. These documents show everything from injuries and complaints to treatments and prescriptions while you were on active duty. They prove that your symptoms didn't just appear out of nowhere years later. Maybe your back pain started after that Humvee crash in 2006, or your ringing ears were first reported during weapons training in basic. If those events are recorded in your service treatment records, they help establish the in-service event link the VA looks for when reviewing claims. Even something that seemed minor at the time, like headaches, knee pain, or sleep issues, could be the key to supporting a claim years later. Without those entries, the VA might argue your condition didn't start until after you left the military. But with the right documentation, you can draw a straight line between your service and your health today. And there's one more thing. These records also help you challenge VA decisions. If the VA denies a claim by saying there's no in-service documentation, and you're holding a page that says otherwise, you've just caught them in an error. But if you didn't save that record yourself, you're stuck trying to prove a negative. So if you haven't already, request a full copy of your service treatment records. Review them, scan them, store them safely. Because when it comes to fighting for the benefits you've earned, this is one document you'll want in your corner, no matter how long it's been since you served. Most veterans toss these aside without thinking twice. But your VA rating decision letters are some of the most important documents you'll ever receive. They don't just confirm whether your claim was approved or denied. They reveal the VA's entire reasoning step by step. And if you ever need to appeal, reopen, or challenge a decision, this letter is your blueprint. Inside each decision letter, the VA explains exactly what they did and didn't consider. They'll list the evidence they reviewed, the connections they found or failed to find, and their explanation for every rating percentage they assigned. That means they denied a claim due to lack of medical nexus, or they gave a lower percentage than expected because of mild symptoms. It'll be written right there, in their own words. Too many veterans think a denial is the end of the road. But the truth is, a decision letter often shows you how to fight back. Maybe they missed key medical evidence, ignored a service-connected incident, or undervalued your symptoms. Without this document, you're arguing blind. With it, you can be specific, accurate, and strategic about your next move. These letters also matter years down the line. Let's say you develop a secondary condition later, or your existing condition worsens. If you've kept your decision letters, you'll know exactly what the VA recognized in your history and what they didn't. That context can make the difference between a smooth increase and another frustrating denial. Even if your claim was approved, don't throw the letter away. Future VA reps, doctors, and even lawyers may need to see it. It's your official record of how the VA interpreted your case at that moment in time. And once it's gone, recreating that history can be difficult, if not impossible. So treat every rating decision letter like gold. Print it, scan it, back it up. Whether you're appealing today or preparing for a potential issue 10 years from now, having this document in your personal archive could save you from delays, confusion, or another uphill battle. If there's one document that can tip the scales in your favor during a VA claim, it's a well-written, detailed letter from your private doctor. Not just a prescription slip or a rush note, an actual medical opinion that connects the dots between your current condition and your military service. And if you've ever had one submitted, you need to keep a copy of it forever. These letters, often called Nexus letters or medical opinions, can carry more weight than most veterans realize. Why? Because the VA often leans on its own doctors, who may give vague or generalized feedback. But a clear, direct opinion from your treating physician, that's first-hand insight from someone who knows your condition intimately. Someone who's seen how it's affected your daily life, your work, your relationships. The strongest letters do three things. They confirm your diagnosis, they explain how it's connected to your time in service, and they back it up with medical reasoning, not just emotion. A doctor saying, "I believe this veteran has PTSD from a deployment in 2004 isn't enough." But if they write, "Based on my treatment history and the veteran's symptoms, it is at least as likely as not that their condition was caused or aggravated by their military service," the VA has to take that seriously. Now, here's the part veterans often overlook. Once that letter's been submitted, the VA adds it to your file. But if it gets misplaced, misread, or excluded from their review, you may never know unless you kept your own copy. That one letter could be the key to overturning a denial or winning a future appeal. And if you've changed doctors or lost touch with that provider, getting another version later might not be possible. Even if your claim is settled, that letter can come in handy years down the road. Let's say you need a rating increase, or you're applying for additional benefits. Having that original Nexus letter, ready to show how the condition was first linked, can save you from starting from scratch. So if a doctor ever took the time to write a letter for you, don't just rely on the VA to store it. Keep it, back it up, make copies. Because in a system where paperwork can get lost or misunderstood, having your own record of medical support could be the one thing that saves your claim or your future. These are the documents most veterans glance at once, then tuck away in a drawer or misplace during a move. But a VA rating decision letter isn't just a summary of what you were granted or denied. It's a roadmap of your entire claim. And if you've ever received one, it's something you should keep permanently. Every time the VA makes a decision on your claim, whether it's your first filing, an appeal, a supplemental request, or even just proposed change, they send you a rating decision letter. This letter doesn't just say, you got 30% for PTSD, or your back condition was denied. It breaks down exactly how they reached that conclusion, what evidence they considered, what they ignored, how they interpreted the law, and sometimes where they made mistakes. Most importantly, it includes what's called the Reasons and Basis section. This is where the VA explains in writing why they did or didn't grant your claim. If they say your medical evidence wasn't strong enough or your condition wasn't connected to your service, that tells you exactly what needs to be fixed if you want to appeal. Without that letter, you're flying blind. But here's what makes it even more critical. These letters can help protect your rating down the road. If the VA ever tries to reduce your benefits, the original decision letter can prove what they acknowledged at the time, especially if your condition hasn't improved. It can also serve as evidence if you ever apply for Social Security disability, seek private insurance coverage, or file for other state or federal benefits. And if you're like many veterans who have multiple conditions or a complex history of claims, these letters are the only way to keep track of which issues were granted, which were denied, and what evidence was missing. Relying on memory or even the VA system can lead to costly mistakes. So if you've ever been tempted to throw out those thick VA envelopes or skip reading the fine print, think again. Every single rating decision you receive is part of your case history. Treat it like gold. Store digital copies. Print hard backups. Because one day, when you need to reopen a claim, defend a rating, or prove your service-connected disability all over again, that letter might be the only thing standing between you and a delayed or denied benefit. If there's one document that can make or break your VA disability claim, especially the complex ones, it's a Nexus letter. And if you've ever been fortunate enough to secure one, you should never let it go. A Nexus letter is a written medical opinion, usually from a private physician, that clearly states a connection between your current condition and your military service. It's not just a casual note from your doctor. It's a detailed, structured, evidence-based explanation linking cause and effect. And in many cases, it's the one thing the VA needs to grant your claim. You see, the VA operates on a standard of at least as likely as not. That means you don't have to prove something beyond a doubt. You just need to show it's 50-50 or better that your condition was caused or worsened by service. A well-written Nexus letter does exactly that. It explains your diagnosis, lays out the relevant service records or events, and then connects the dots using sound medical reasoning. And when it comes from a licensed, qualified professional, the VA is required to take it seriously. But here's where veterans often go wrong. Once a claim is approved, they assume the Nexus letter has served its purpose and toss it aside. Big mistake. Because the VA might challenge that service connection years later, especially if your rating is under review or someone decides to reopen your file. And without the original Nexus letter on hand, you may find yourself scrambling to get another one, which isn't always possible. Even worse, not all doctors are willing to write these letters. The good ones are often booked months out. And if your condition has changed since the original letter was written, it may be harder to recreate the same compelling argument. That one document you had, the one that clearly laid out the logic, might have been your strongest defense. Keep a printed copy. Keep a digital copy. Back it up in more than one place. Because whether you're filing a new claim, appealing a denial, or defending a rating years later, that letter may be the most powerful piece of evidence you have. And without it, you're just hoping the VA remembers what your doctor once said. Never rely on that. Hold on to it. Forever. It's easy to think once your VA claim is approved, the hard part is over. But the truth is, the system doesn't stop keeping tabs, and neither should you. The documents we covered today aren't just scraps of paper or outdated files. They're your proof, your protection, your power. Too many veterans find themselves years down the line needing to prove something they thought was already settled, only to realize the one document that could have saved them is long gone. Whether it's your DD-214 award letters or those all-important Nexus statements, these records are the backbone of your VA history. Because one phone call, one missing form, or one uninformed decision can set off a chain reaction that puts your benefits and your stability at risk. That's why it's not just about keeping these documents. It's about guarding them like your future depends on it. Because it just might. If any of this hit close to home, don't wait. Check your files, back up what matters, and organize the paperwork that can protect everything you've earned. And if you made it to the end of this video, drop a comment below with the number 9, so we know you're part of the community that's paying attention and protecting what's yours. Thank you for watching, and if you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update that could impact your benefits or your well-being. We'll see you in the next one.